One afternoon, I was slowly pouring water into the stone mill. Making tofu was not a task to be rushed. Miss, this old servant has finally found you. You've suffered so much all these years. A wailing cry made me drop the water ladle in my hand. The woman who came was a richly dressed nanny, the kind one would see in a wealthy household. She looked me up and down, the spitting image, exactly the same. She led me back to the house, pulled open my collar, and upon seeing a small cinnabar mole on my shoulder, burst into another fit of tears. She was Nanny Zhao, my wet nurse from when I was a child. I was the lost second young lady of the Northern Pacification Marquis Mansion. After grinding tofu for more than a decade, my life was turned upside down overnight, and I rose from the dust to become a phoenix. Nanny Zhao left a bag of gold for my adoptive parents. Miss, your fate with this family has come to an end. The carriage rumbled toward the capital, taking me farther and farther from my past life. 02. My original name was Jiangyu, after the beautiful jade pendant I never took off my neck. A few days earlier, my younger brother had fallen ill, and I'd pawned the jade to pay for his medicine. Nanny Zhao said my name was now Jiang Linlang. You were originally called Yaoguang when you were little. Nanny Zhao sighed. Ever since you were abducted, the madam has wept every day, her memory failing her on and off. Later, the Marquis adopted a young girl around your age from the clan to raise by the madam's side. She took the name Yaoguang. She is a few years older, so you must call her elder sister. But you are the Marquis's own flesh and blood, the true noble young lady. She merely holds the title in name only. Yaoguang, I knew, was a star in the sky. The lord and lady of the Northern Pacification Marquis Mansion must have loved me dearly once. I had never seen such a large mansion before. Winding verandas, stone-paved paths, pavilions and towers in the courtyard, exotic rocks and lush green bamboos. Not even the abodes of immortals in storybooks could compare to this. Yua, the beautiful woman who called my name, bore a 5-part resemblance to me. She was my birth mother, Madame Wang. When she saw my face clearly, she pulled me into her arms and wept. Mother, I wiped away my tears, crying so hard I thought I would faint. It frightened Madame Wang half to death. You've been wronged all these years. The miss and the madam are bound by mother and daughter's heart. This reunion is a great joy. Don't cry yourselves sick. Nanny Zhao stepped forward to comfort us. The Northern Pacification Marquis must have been a handsome man in his youth. My thin lips were more like his. Though he was overjoyed to see me, he did not lose control of his emotions. I stepped forward and kowtowed, calling him father several times obediently. Then, satisfied, I took the pile of brocades and silks they had given me back to my courtyard. As soon as I closed the door, I wiped away my tears at once, as if I had never cried. Since I was a child, I had an innate ability to read people's expressions and please them. For every 3 parts of a deed done, 7 parts of sweet words must be spoken. The world loved to hear nice things. 03. I met my nominal elder sister, Jiang Yaoguang, the next day. Her features were delicate and beautiful. She wore a crabapple pink RU skirt, her head was adorned with pearls and jade, and she walked with light, graceful steps that made no sound. Jiang Yaoguang was the very image of a noble young lady from an aristocratic family. Little sister, I caught a cold yesterday and feared passing the illness to you. Jiang Yaoguang covered her mouth with a handkerchief. I shook my head. It's nothing, elder sister. Please take good care of yourself. I am over the moon that you have returned to the mansion. She took my hand, her snow-white, delicate hand a stark contrast to my calloused, peeling one. What happened to your hand? Were you hurt? I smiled. Grinding tofu all year round. It's only natural for my hands to be like this. Tears welled up in Jiang Yaoguang's eyes. I never imagined you suffered so much outside. I comforted her. But Jiang Yaoguang kept crying. I talked my throat dry. She changed her handkerchief once, and still her tears did not stop. Elder sister, I wondered to myself, could there really be someone in the world with better acting skills than me? Crying on command was one thing, but these tears were an endless stream. Our young lady has a little quirk. When her emotions get the better of her, she can't stop crying. At least not for a quarter of an hour. Jiang Yaoguang's maid skillfully pulled a clean handkerchief from her bosom. I am so sorry for making a fool of myself in front of you. Little sister, Jiang Yaoguang said, hiccuping from crying. I told Nanny Zhao to hurry and pour Jiang Yaoguang a glass of water. Who would have thought my elder sister was such a crybaby? Moments later, Jiang Yaoguang's tears finally stopped. She brought me a pile of books. These are all my most cherished things. Little sister, please keep them safe. She handed the books to me reluctantly. I can barely read a few big characters. It would be a waste for me to keep these books. Jiang Yaoguang looked at me as if I were illiterate and said she would teach me to read and write. In truth, I could read, but saying so would have sounded unconvincing. I finally managed to send her away, and was so tired I lay on the bed and rested for a long while. I touched my sleeve, half of it was soaked with Jiang Yaoguang's tears and still not dry. Truly a remarkable person. 04. Why was Jiang Yaoguang's attitude toward me nothing like the stories? I was confused. Storybooks said that in the depths of noble mansions, sisters were always at each other's throats. I decided to wait and see. After returning to the Marquis mansion, Nanny Zhao filled my schedule to the brim. I woke up earlier than the roosters and slept later than the dogs. I started the morning by reading the Book of Songs. In the forenoon, I practiced writing big characters a few pages. In the afternoon, I learned to play Go from a hired master. Before going to bed at night, I memorized the Marquis mansion's genealogy several times over, counting the collateral branches. There were hundreds of people in the Marquis mansion, big and small. This life was simply unbearable. I'd rather go back to grinding tofu. I've lived like this ever since I was a child. Jiang Yaoguang smiled. Hurry, finish writing these pages and you'll be able to rest. My hand holding the writing brush trembled. No. You'll be able to continue learning how to appreciate poetry, Jiang Yaoguang said enthusiastically. I'll bring the poems I wrote in previous years for you to read. I let out a long sigh. Nanny Zhao said I was engaged to the Prime Minister's mansion, a household with strict rules, and that making me study hard now was for my own good. She combed my hair with an ivory comb and praised me at the same time. Miss, your hair is black and thick, just like the madam's. It's just your knowledge. Though she did not finish her sentence, I understood perfectly. The female scholar who taught me told my mother that I studied diligently every day but made no progress. Naturally, my studying was all an act. I was extremely good at putting on a show. Before her marriage, Madame Wang had been a famous talented woman in the capital. Jiang Yaoguang was also highly gifted in literature. The two of them could talk endlessly about appreciating a single poem for an entire day. Listening to them made me sit on pins and needles. Worse still, I heard the young master of the Prime Minister's mansion had returned to the capital. This marriage had me so worried I'd lost a handful of hair. Jiang Yaoguang came to see me. Little sister, can you give me the engagement? Before Jiang Yaoguang could finish her sentence, she burst into tears, pulling at my sleeve and refusing to let go. She even tried to kneel down. Give it, it was yours to begin with. I quickly pulled her up. I would have given my left arm to get rid of this hot potato. What kind of place was the Prime Minister's mansion, with its rigid rules? It was nothing short of a gate to hell for me. I didn't care if the young master of the Prime Minister's mansion was a talented young man or not. All I knew was that if Jiang Yaoguang kept crying, she'd flood my bedroom. 05. Linlang, you are such a kind person. Jiang Yaoguang said through teary eyes. I handed her a handkerchief. Elder sister, have you and the young master of the Prime Minister's mansion been childhood sweethearts, and long had feelings for each other? Jiang Yaoguang's movements froze, her face flushing redder and redder. Linlang, about him and me, you'd better not ask any more questions. I knew Jiang Yaoguang was hiding something. She was thin-skinned, raised naively in the Marquis mansion since childhood, and could not keep a secret at all. The fluster on her face clearly showed she was at a loss. Linlang, just promise me, that's all. Jiang Yaoguang lowered her eyes. It seems elder sister is deeply in love with the young master of the Prime Minister's mansion. Don't worry, I will find a way to make your wish come true. Jiang Yaoguang hesitated for a moment, stammering, and in the end said nothing at all. After sending Jiang Yaoguang away, I called my maid Xianxia in. Xianxia was a born and bred servant of the mansion. She was plain-looking and not favored by the masters of the Marquis mansion. When I, the noble young lady, first returned to the mansion, many people in the Marquis mansion were waiting and watching. The maids and servants were also afraid of choosing the wrong master and having no future. Xianxia was the first to pledge her loyalty to me. Having grown up in the Marquis mansion since childhood, Xianxia knew everything about it. And she was useful to me. Jiang Yaoguang just came to see me and asked me to give her the engagement. What do you think? I stroked the teacup with my fingertip. Xianxia pondered for a moment. The eldest young lady has a soft temperament and would never make such a big decision on her own. It must have been Nanny Qi who urged her to do it. Nanny Qi was Jiang Yaoguang's wet nurse, and it was only natural that she thought of everything for her. After all, in everyone's eyes, the marriage to the Prime Minister's mansion was an exceptionally good match. Have Jiang Yaoguang and the Prime Minister Pei's mansion had any contact? I asked vaguely, actually wanting to know more about her relationship with the young Master Pei. As far as I know, the eldest young lady and the young Master Pei have never met. This took me by surprise. Young Master Pei had been sent to study at the ancestral home when he was a child. The Pei clan was a great family in the south of the Yangtze River. Pei Huichuan was the third in the clan and had written poems that have been passed down since he was 12. Having returned to the capital this time, he had already passed the first 2 imperial examinations with flying colors. It was anyone's guess if he would take the top spot in the spring imperial examination. After all, 2 top scholars had come from the Pei clan in the past, though I did not know much about Pei Huichuan. I could roughly tell he was a scholarly noble young man from an aristocratic family, a perfect match for Jiang Yaoguang. No matter what Jiang Yaoguang's motives were for asking for this marriage, I agreed with it from the bottom of my heart, but this matter needed to be carefully considered. The next day, I sounded out my mother, Madame Wang, about the marriage. Madame Wang said, "This marriage was agreed upon by Prime Minister Pei and your father. It's all my fault for being careless back then. Letting you get lost and making you suffer all these years. Mother will make it up to you, and let you marry into the Prime Minister's mansion in splendor. Elder sister has accompanied mother all year round, so I think they must have thought the engagement was with her. Why not?" I tentatively started the conversation. "Don't worry, the Prime Minister's mansion is marrying the legitimate young lady of the Marquis mansion, and that can only be you. As for your elder sister's marriage, I will carefully choose a good match for her." I was even more worried, but Madame Wang spoke with great conviction, her heart full of maternal love. When she mentioned my life experience, she became sad again. I had no choice but to change the subject. Since I could not reason with Madame Wang, I had to start with my father. The Northern Pacification Marquis, 06. My parents loved each other deeply, though the Northern Pacification Marquis was a military man. He was not exempt from the customs of the world, and there was a concubine in the mansion besides my mother. I also had 2 elder brothers, one legitimate and one illegitimate. One wife and one concubine was quite a small number among the aristocratic families. Unfortunately, he was usually busy with official duties, and I rarely saw him. Every time we met, it was in front of the whole family, and I never found a chance to speak to him alone. He doted on me, his long-lost biological daughter. Perhaps because my thin lips resembled his a little, the Northern Pacification Marquis always wanted to express the paternal love he had kept hidden for years. I gave him some sachets and shoe soles I had embroidered by myself. Though the stitches were rough and the patterns blurry, I did not know if he was happy to receive these things, but I was overjoyed to see the growing pile of dresses and jewelry he rewarded me with from the treasury. What I loved the most, however, were the exquisite and delicate gold ingots at the bottom of the box. I could not help it. I had lived a hard life before. Nothing gave me a greater sense of security than money. Xianxia did not understand why I had to count the gold every night before going to bed. "Miss, the way you look at this gold. What about it? It's as if you're looking at your dearest treasure." "Silly girl, this is my dearest treasure." I rewarded her with a silver peanut ornament. The weather grew warmer day by day. Madame Wang wanted to take Jiang Yaoguang and me to the temple to pray to the Buddha, saying we should thank the Buddha for his blessings and fulfill our vow. Reciting scriptures, praying to the Buddha, and eating vegetarian meals were all compulsory lessons for a noble young lady. It seemed that doing these things would allow one to be tainted with a touch of celestial aura. I had no interest in gods and Buddhas, but I agreed at once, thinking I would not have to practice calligraphy on the way. In just a short time, I had been reborn in the Northern Pacification Marquis Mansion. In the Jiang family before, though life was stable, it was also poor, and I rarely ate meat, since returning to the Marquis Mansion. All the ingredients were of the finest quality, delicacies from mountains and seas, both colorful and fragrant. Madame Wang even specially ordered the kitchen to make medicinal food to nourish my body. The lion's head meatballs were glossy and bright, the perch tender and delicious, and the bird's nest crystal clear. Unfortunately, eating in the Marquis Mansion also required following strict etiquette, from holding chopsticks and spoons to chewing slowly. By the time the whole process was over, the food had long turned lukewarm. I was at an age where I was still growing, having to study hard during the day. I always felt ravenously hungry at night. Fortunately, Nanny Zhao would ask the kitchen to cook me some midnight snacks to fill my stomach. 07. The temple we were going to was the Imperial Enlightenment Temple on the outskirts of the capital. Ancient trees towered on both sides of the road all the way, lush and green. Jiang Yaoguang insisted on riding in the same carriage as me. She lifted the curtain and pointed at the scenery outside. Linlang, looking at this scene, what thoughts come to your mind? Tall trees, lots of grass, I blurted out. Jiang Yaoguang shook her head. The spring days linger long, the plants grow thick and green. I clicked my tongue twice, admiring Jiang Yaoguang's poetic talent. Linlang, have you still not memorized the Book of Songs? Jiang Yaoguang looked at me with a look of disappointment. It's only more than 300 poems. Yet you've dragged it out for so long. Perfect, let me test you. I nearly fainted. I had thought I would not have to practice calligraphy in the carriage, but who knew I would still have to recite poems? Elder sister, the carriage is too bumpy. I cannot concentrate. I held my forehead and made an excuse. It does not matter. I will recite the poems and essays to you, and you just listen. Jiang Yaoguang pulled out a scroll of books with great enthusiasm. When we finally reached the foot of the mountain where the Imperial Enlightenment Temple was located, I all but fled out of the carriage. The Imperial Enlightenment Temple was situated on the top of the mountain, and one had to climb up the stone steps to reach it. By the time the monks in the temple led us to our quarters, it was already late. Jiang Yaoguang and Madame Wang were exhausted and returned to their wing rooms to rest early. This little bit of mountain road was nothing to me. Freed from those tormenting poems, I actually felt refreshed and invigorated. The master in the Imperial Enlightenment Temple was famous for his explanations of Buddhist scriptures, but the taste of the vegetarian food here was really unflattering. I took a few hasty bites of dinner and soon felt my stomach growling with hunger before going to bed. Xianxia volunteered to find me some food, but I waited and waited, and she did not return. I got up and went out. Recalling the layout of the Imperial Enlightenment Temple that the monk had described during the day, unfortunately, it was already dark, and the temple was silent all around. Through the dancing shadows of the trees, I saw a dim light in one of the wing rooms. I could not help but approach the house. A painful groan came from inside the room. How dare you use private punishment? Why wouldn't I dare? A man's cold voice replied. This was followed by the sound of a sharp weapon piercing flesh. I will report you to the Court of Judicial Review. I smelled the stench of blood filling the air. Oh no, I thought in a panic. No matter who was inside, I could not get involved with them. Lightening my steps, I turned to leave. It was so quiet all around that I could only hear the beating of my own heart. 3 steps, 2 steps. I was almost there. Stop. I did not even see how this ghostly figure of a man appeared in front of me. Beneath the moonlight, he was tall and slender. With black hair like ink, his black robe made him seem like an evil spirit born from the night. I quickly lowered my head, daring not to look at his face. I saw nothing, heard nothing. I was just passing by. If I do not go back, my young lady will worry about me. Who is your young lady? The man did not subdue the murderous aura emanating from him. The daughter of the Northern Pacification Marquis. I invoked my father's reputation, hoping to intimidate this thief who dared to kill in a royal temple. I am my young lady's confidant. If she does not see me, She will definitely send someone to look for me. The man sneered. Are you threatening me? I dare not. Brave man, rest assured, I will not tell anyone about what happened tonight. He suddenly reached for my neck. What a vicious thief. Even after I said that, he still wanted to kill me. I grabbed his wrist hard in return, leaving a deep scratch. He winced in pain, but did not stop his movements. The jade pendant around my neck was snatched away by him. Our eyes met, his were as black as ink. I noticed then that he was wearing a mask. No wonder he was so unscrupulous. I will keep this item. You may leave now. I was furious. This jade pendant was a fine piece of Xianxia jade, the most valuable thing I had on me. Brave man. This jade pendant was bought from a street stall. It is not worth anything. May I give you the bracelet my young lady rewarded me with instead? No. The man stroked the white jade in his hand. If you do not leave now, you will wait for your young lady to collect your body. I ran as fast as I could, scrambling out of the courtyard in a panic. 08. Damn it. I cursed this shameless thief all night. When Xianxia came back, she could not find me and did not dare to act rashly. Miss, where have you been? I brought you 2 steamed buns. Xianxia and I each ate one. But I could not tell her about the thief, so I made up an excuse to prevaricate. The next day, I asked the monks in the temple who lived in that wing room. Benefactor, this wing room is usually occupied by the family members of the Vice Minister of the Ministry of Punishments, but they have not come for quite some time. Sure enough, the room was spotlessly clean, not a trace of blood. Not even a speck of dust. Everything that happened last night seemed like a dream, but I knew it was not. The lack of dust in the room was precisely the result of someone's cleaning. All was peaceful in the Imperial Enlightenment Temple, and nothing unusual had happened. Xianxia, go ask those young novice monks if anyone is missing from the temple. Though Xianxia was curious, she never asked too many questions. I was very satisfied with her sense of propriety. Miss, no one is missing. Only an elderly eminent monk is unwell and has been bedridden for the past few days. I stayed behind closed doors for the next few days at the Imperial Enlightenment Temple, afraid of running into that thief again. Fortunately, everything was calm. Presumably, the thief had already gone down the mountain. Madame Wang pulled me to kowtow to all the gods and Buddhas. I prayed in my heart for the safe return of my white jade pendant. As for that thief, I hoped misfortune would befall him at every turn, even making him choke on cold water. On the day we were to go down the mountain, another group of guests arrived at the Imperial Enlightenment Temple. It was the son of the Vice Minister of the Ministry of Punishments, coming to pray for blessings on his mother's behalf. Madame Wang was on good terms with the Vice Minister's wife. Learning that she was ill, she specially called her son over. The son of the Vice Minister of the Ministry of Punishments was named He Ming. He was extraordinary in appearance, tall and straight in posture. Greetings, Aunt. He Ming cupped his hands in a salute. He spoke with gentle and polite manners, and a few words had Madame Wang beaming with joy. Xianxia Journeys, behind the screen, could not help but glance at He Ming several more times. Shortly after, He Ming took his leave and left. I found the air in the room stuffy, so I took Xianxia out for a walk. Second Miss Jiang, He Ming had actually turned back, recalling the etiquette the nanny had taught me earlier. I curtsied and was about to leave. He Ming could be called a handsome man, but for some reason, I always felt a sense of incongruity about him, especially his eyes, deep and pitch black. I heard you have been in poor health since childhood and have always been raised in a separate courtyard. How is your health now? Thank you for your concern, young master. I am already much better. He Ming cupped his hands and took his leave at last. It seemed like an ordinary encounter, but I felt uneasy in my heart. When he saluted, his wrist under his sleeve was as white as jade, with a few faint red marks on it. I had scratched the thief's hand. He was that thief. The son of the Vice Minister of the Ministry of Punishments was killing people in the temple. No wonder he was not afraid of the Court of Judicial Review. His father would take the blame for anything that happened. I felt a chill run down my spine. 09. On the way back, Xianxia Journeys took the initiative to mention He Ming. Young master, he is indeed gentle and polite, but I have never heard fourth Miss he say her elder brother is such a person. Oh no, I hoped Xianxia Journeys was not fooled by He Ming. I think he looks shifty-eyed. He is definitely not a good match. I spared no effort to speak ill of He Ming. If you ask me, the son of Prime Minister Pei is a much better match for you. Jiang Yaoguang was lost for words for a moment. Linlang, about what I said earlier, please do not take it to heart. It was the nanny who hugged me and cried that night, saying if I did not fight for this marriage, in the future I would. I was a little surprised. I had not even figured out how to get her to talk. Yet Jiang Yaoguang had spilled everything. I was short-sighted and was misled by the nanny. What kind of family is the Prime Minister's mansion? They will definitely only marry the legitimate daughter of the Marquis mansion. You have a good temper to tolerate my nonsense. Mother has promised me that she will find a good family for me. Our sisterly bond is deep, and I will never be instigated by others again. I had calculated everything. But I never expected Madame Wang to act so resolutely. Without my knowing, she had already dealt with Jiang Yaoguang's nanny and comforted Jiang Yaoguang's emotions. Jiang Yaoguang was weak-willed and lacked her own ideas. Madame Wang knew this, and that she posed no threat to me at all. For a moment, I felt a daze, as if my future path had already been laid out, leaving no room for deviation. Word spread that He Ming, the son of the Vice Minister of the Ministry of Punishments, had captured a thief who had been on the run for 10 years at the Imperial Enlightenment Temple. The man had been bold enough to impersonate a high monk, fortunately with no casualties. Madame Wang broke out in a cold sweat, grateful that we had left early. Shortly after returning to the mansion, I fell seriously ill, filled with lingering fear. Madame Wang forbade us from going out at will and kept us confined to the mansion for a long time. Jiang Yaoguang was already accustomed to such confinement. Time flew by, and after the palace examination, on the day the results were announced, the inner courtyard of the Marquis mansion was in an uproar like a boiling cauldron. Miss Young Master Pei has been appointed the top scholar by imperial edict. As time passed, I had almost forgotten I even had such a fiancé. Pei Huichuan winning the top scholar title was within the Northern Pacification Marquis's expectations. That the son of the Prime Minister and the daughter of the Northern Pacification Marquis had been betrothed since childhood was a well-known fact among the aristocratic families in the capital. Yet there was no shortage of scheming people who also had their eyes on the third young Master Pei. The Prime Minister's mansion sent an invitation to the Northern Pacification Marquis's mansion to watch the new Jinsha parade at the Golden River Tower, inadvertently sending a reassurance to the Marquis's mansion, showing the Prime Minister's mansion's great emphasis on this marriage. Madame Wang had gifts prepared for the Pei mansion. And the entire Northern Pacification Marquis's mansion was bustling with activity. The viewing spot at the Golden River Tower was the best, and only prominent and powerful families could reserve a seat. Madame Wang had Jiang Yaoguang and me dress up elaborately before we set off for the feast. Madame Song, Prime Minister Pei's wife, was a gentle beauty, and she had only 2 sons. The eldest son, Pei Huichuan, was now the newly crowned top scholar. The youngest son, Pei Huiping, was only 6 years old, a little boy, the 7th in the clan. He followed behind Madame Pei. Though young, he had red lips and white teeth, baby fat on his face, and a slightly plump figure. Madame Jiang is truly blessed to have raised 2 such beautiful young ladies like flowers and jade. Madame Pei took Jiang Yaoguang's and my hands in hers. After a round of polite greetings, everyone stood by the window waiting for the scholars to pass by. I noticed the 7th young Master Pei sneaking glances at me, and finding it amusing, I took the initiative to strike up a conversation with him. "How old are you, 7th young Master? Have you started reading? How are your lessons?" The 7th young Master Pei answered fluently without hesitation. Just then, the sound of gongs and drums, and a noisy crowd, erupted outside the window. I looked out, and among the throng of people surrounding him, the new top scholar stood out like a crane among chickens. Pei Huichuan wore a golden flower and black gauze hat, a bright red robe, held an imperial edict in his hand, and rode on a fine steed with a golden saddle. The second-place scholar was a middle-aged man over 30, and the third-place scholar was indeed handsome, with regular facial features. But Pei Huichuan, with his face as white as jade, elegant and refined, even the rich red robe could not conceal his otherworldly temperament. The seventh young Master Pei stood on tiptoe, straining to look out. I let him stand on the stool in front of me to watch the parade. The seventh young Master Pei blushed and thanked me profusely. "Thank you, elder sister. I will study hard like my brother in the future and become a top scholar too." His eyes were filled with filial admiration for Pei Huichuan. With such outstanding looks, I could not help but glance at Pei Huichuan a few more times. The seventh young Master Pei stuffed a flower into my hand. "Elder sister, hurry and throw it to my brother." The smile on my face froze slightly. Onlookers on both sides of the parade route were throwing flowers at them, but Pei Huichuan never caught any. The seventh young Master Pei tugged at my sleeve, urging me non-stop, and Pei Huichuan had already ridden his horse to the bottom of the Golden River Tower. I had no choice but to casually toss the flower in my hand down. "Brother, look at me." The seventh young Master Pei shouted loudly. The surrounding noise was deafening, and I thought Pei Huichuan would not be able to hear him. Unexpectedly, he just happened to lift his face and stare straight at us. The seventh young Master Pei waved his hand frantically, and I held his waist to prevent him from falling off the stool. By a strange coincidence, Pei Huichuan caught the flower I had thrown. He held the pink and white flower in his hand and smiled faintly. Screams from women erupted all around. He smiled at me. I only thought this man's looks were too overwhelming, and I should keep my distance from him. 10. Pei Huichuan entered the Hanlin Academy. After all, as the son of the Prime Minister, his future was boundless. Jiang Yaoguang and I had never met Pei Huichuan in person. He was making a brilliant career in the officialdom, while I recited books and practiced calligraphy in the inner chambers. The Pei Mansion sent several invitations, asking Jiang Yaoguang and me to attend their feasts. Each time I went, it was an immense torment to my body and mind. The Pei clan had a large number of family members, with 5 legitimate young ladies, 2 from the second branch, and 3 from the third branch. Prime Minister Pei was the clan leader and also the head of the main branch. The strict rules of the Pei Mansion were no joke. The words and deeds of those young ladies were as if they had been cast from the same mold. Every word and action was governed by strict etiquette. To fit in with them, I had to be extremely careful in my words and deeds, for fear of overstepping the bounds. Since my knowledge was not profound, I chose to be cautious and speak little. "Linlang, your poems are truly wonderful." The 5th young lady Pei praised me. "Why not help me appreciate mine as well?" Cold sweat nearly broke out on my forehead. I had not written this poem at all. I had simply memorized a few poems revised by Jiang Yaoguang in the mansion. Their level was neither high nor low, aiming for mediocrity, enough to cope with ordinary occasions. 5th young lady's poems are fresh and beautiful. I feel ashamed in comparison. I quickly perfunctorily replied, "Fortunately." The 7th young Master Pei came to my rescue. But though this boy was young, he had read a great many books. He had an old head on young shoulders, talking about poetry and books at every turn. "You're still young. Thinking too much will make you unable to lose weight in the future." I blinked. Once my parents forced me to study hard, making me read books in the room every day, and I slowly swelled up like a rubber ball. The 7th young Master Pei turned pale with fright. He did not want to be a little fat boy forever. "Elder sister, how did you lose weight?" "Naturally, by going out and moving around more." I pointed to a tree in the Pei Mansion garden. "After I lost weight. Climbing trees was a piece of cake for me." The 7th young Master Pei looked at me half believingly. There was no one around for the moment, so I clapped my hands and climbed up the tree in a flash. I plucked a bunch of cherries from the branches, then flipped down from the tree and handed them to the 7th young Master Pei. The 7th young Master Pei stared at me in stunned silence. "You must not tell anyone else. This is our little secret." I made the 7th young Master Pei stick out his little finger and pinky-promised with him. The 7th young Master Pei nodded his head. Children were so easy to coax. I also caught a cricket in the garden and taught the 7th young Master Pei how to fight crickets. These were all common games for children from ordinary families in the alleys, but the 7th young Master Pei, a young master from an aristocratic family, had never even heard of them. "Play with it for a while and then let it go. Don't let anyone find out," I instructed the 7th young Master Pei. Though the 7th young Master Pei was cute, I still wanted to keep a respectful distance from the Pei mansion. 11. The weather gradually turned cold, and winter arrived quietly. The emperor issued an edict for a winter hunt, and all officials could bring their family members along. The emperor was old and had not held such a grand event for many years. Madame Wang insisted that Jiang Yaoguang and I must go. This hunt was also a good opportunity for the young masters and ladies of the aristocratic families to size each other up. I thought to myself that Madame Wang intended to take this chance to find a good marriage for Jiang Yaoguang. If possible, I really wanted to give the marriage with the Pei mansion to Jiang Yaoguang. I was not good at horseback riding, so I huddled in the carriage for most of the time, when the noble young ladies gathered together. They would also talk about which young men were the most outstanding. The top scholar Pei Huichuan was highly gifted in literature and had outstanding looks, but he was just a frail scholar and not good at martial arts. He Ming, however, excelled in martial arts and often returned with a full load of prey. The two were good friends and often went together. I listened quietly on the side, never participating in the discussions. After the tents were set up at night, everyone was tired from the long journey, so they tied it up hastily and fell asleep. I had slept a lot during the day and could not fall asleep at night. In the dead of night, I heard a rustling sound at the tent door. It was not Lian Xiao. I instinctively reached for the dagger under my pillow. When the black shadow stepped in front of me, I drew the dagger and stabbed at him, unexpectedly. I stabbed empty air, and instead was caught by him, my mouth also covered by his hand. The Marquis mansion is truly generous to its maids, letting you live in a tent alone. The man's deep voice rang in my ear. This damned thief, the son of the dignified vice minister of the Ministry of Punishments, actually doing such underhanded things. I struggled to speak. His hand moved to my neck. If you alarm anyone, you can guess who is faster, them or me. I am not a maid. My father is the Northern Pacification Marquis. I lied last time to save my life, I said in a humble tone. Since he did not want to expose his identity, I would play along with his act. Second Miss Jiang, I have no intention of harming you. I only need to lie low for a while. You are a smart person. You know what to do. Shadows of people flickered outside the tent. Lian Xiao was awakened and asked through the tent, "Miss, is there anything wrong with you?" "No," I pretended to be sleepy. "Why is it so noisy outside?" "They said a snake was found in one of the tents," Lian Xiao said. "They gave me some realgar powder. I'll sprinkle it around now. It's too late. We'll do it tomorrow." I thought to myself, where would a snake come from in the dead of winter? He must have done something and been found out. And people were now chasing him. They're all gone. Brave man. You can leave now. Thank you, Second Miss Jiang. Until we meet again. As soon as the words fell, he disappeared without a trace. I cursed under my breath. Who wanted to meet him again? The next day, the fifth young lady Pei invited us to go hunting together. They stared at me without blinking. "Lin Lang, you look so beautiful in Hu-style clothing." Simplicity and elegance were regarded as beauty in the court, and Jiang Yaoguang was exactly this type of beauty. Nanny Zhao said my looks were too overwhelming, bright and glamorous, not in line with the current aesthetic of the world, and always made me dress in a plain and simple way like water. Two men rode side by side towards us. They were of similar stature, both outstanding young men of the highest order. The man on the left had a dignified appearance and an awe-inspiring righteousness. It was He Ming. I could not help but stare at him. This man had sneaked into my tent last night, yet he could be a completely different person in broad daylight. His acting skills were truly superb, strangely enough. Though it was the same face, I thought he was different from the man I had met at the Imperial Enlightenment Temple last time. The man beside him was as elegant as an orchid and a jade tree. It was Pei Huichuan, Second Miss Jiang. Pei Huichuan nodded slightly at me. "Thank you for taking care of the seventh young master." I quickly returned the salute, playing the role of a polite noble young lady to perfection. When Jiang Yaoguang was about to mount her horse, she almost stepped empty. And He Ming held her up in an instant. "Thank you, young master." He Ming smiled at Jiang Yaoguang, revealing a set of white teeth. Looking at Jiang Yaoguang again, a blush had already risen on her cheeks. 12. As we rode in search of prey, He Ming and Jiang Yaoguang walked ahead, talking and laughing. They looked utterly content, fearing Jiang Yaoguang would be deceived by this thief. I followed close behind them. Second Miss Jiang, is there anything unusual about He Ming? Pei Huichuan followed beside me at an unhurried pace. I only think young master his archery is extraordinary, I said meaningfully. Pei Huichuan and I came back empty-handed. He Ming, however, had already shot 2 golden pheasants and a roe deer, and even captured a wild hare alive to give to Jiang Yaoguang. Pei Huichuan suddenly realized, and apologized, I am unskilled in martial arts, and not good at archery. Young Master Pei is a man of great talent. Having passed all 3 imperial examinations with the top score, I admire you deeply, Pei Huichuan said instead. We are betrothed, there is no need for such formality, just call me Sanlang. His gaze was intense, and with such looks, I found it truly hard to refuse. My name is Linlang. Pei Huichuan murmured the name a few times between his lips and teeth, and I had never thought my own name sounded so beautiful, but at the thought of the troublesome Pei clan behind him, I quickly calmed down again. I saw the grass and leaves trembling, and hastily drew my bow and shot an arrow. I actually hit the target, but the force was insufficient. The prey fell to the ground for a moment, then stood up and fled again. I immediately dismounted from my horse. Pei Huichuan was faster than me. I'll catch it for you. Soon he was out of sight. I waited for a moment and still did not see him return, so I had to go look for him. The further I walked, the desolate it became. Pei Sanlang, I'm here, don't. Following the sound, my foot slipped, and in a dizzy spin, I fell into a large hole. I fell hard, yet felt surprisingly little pain. The hole was dim, and I pressed my hand down. It was not as hard as the ground. Linlang, don't move, Pei Huichuan hissed, grasping my hand. It turned out Pei Huichuan had acted as a human cushion for me. My hands groped around randomly, not knowing where I had touched. I quickly stood up. Here. He held up a fluffy fox in his hands and handed it to me. I caught it for you. His body was covered in grass leaves, and a smudge of mud had somehow stained his fair face, clearly looking disheveled. Yet for the first time, I truly looked at Pei Huichuan. His eyebrows and eyes were exceptionally handsome. His slender eyelashes like black butterflies about to spread their wings, his pupils as dark as ink. My heart thundered in my chest. He Ming and Jiang Yaoguang finally noticed we were gone, turned back, and rescued us from the hole. Pei Huichuan had been injured when he fell into the hole. Acting as my cushion had made his injuries worse, leaving a hideous gash on his body from a sharp stone. Thank you for taking care of me, Linlang. Pei Huichuan's face was filled with a soft smile. I smiled faintly. It's only right. The little fox I had shot was slightly injured. I stuffed it into Pei Huichuan's arms. Sanlang, you and it should both rest and heal well together. Pei Huichuan and the fox stared at each other. When the winter hunt ended, I changed Pei Huichuan's medicine for the last time. As my hand reached into his arms, his eyes were tightly closed, fast asleep. The little fox curled up in a ball beside him, though he was a frail scholar. He had a fine figure. My hand slid down to his chest, and I touched a warm piece of jade. Linlang, this jade was given to me by my mother, for me to give to my wife in the future. Pei Huichuan opened his eyes and took out the jade. It was carved with the Pei clan's totem. He hung the jade around my neck. Anyway, we will marry sooner or later, so I'll give it to you now. Pei Huichuan curved his lips into a smile. Before I could say a word of refusal, he pulled me into his arms. This was not what I had expected. I had originally planned to make Pei Huichuan take the initiative to break off the engagement. Linlang, there is no one in this world more suited to each other than us, Pei Huichuan murmured in my ear. I looked at the man and woman cuddling close in the mirror, and made up my mind. 13. After returning to the capital, Jiang Yaoguang's marriage was settled to He Ming. The Prime Minister's mansion and the Northern Pacification Marquis's mansion also exchanged marriage certificates. Pei Huichuan's and my engagement was now official, only waiting for an auspicious day to wed. The winter hunt seemed to have been the emperor's last burst of vitality. 2 months after returning to the palace, he fell ill and did not hold court for several consecutive days. The emperor was by nature suspicious, favored eunuchs, and had sent all 3 of his adult princes to remote fiefdoms. There were treacherous eunuchs in the palace, and powerful maternal relatives in the court. The imperial noble consort's elder brother, the Duke of Hugua, wielded immense power. Fortunately, there were loyal ministers like Prime Minister Pei in the court, so the government remained stable. But now that the emperor was ill, all forces were eyeing the throne covetously. Prime Minister Pei was framed, and the Pei clan's official descendants were successively suppressed. Even Pei Huichuan, a civil official, was transferred out of the capital. My father was a military general, and had always kept a low profile to stay out of trouble. No one expected the trouble to spread to him. He was accused of forming a clique for personal gain, a cardinal sin for a minister. Linlang, leave tonight, as fast as you can. The Northern Pacification Marquis stroked my hair. You did not grow up in the Marquis mansion. I have wronged you, and this disaster should not befall you. Madame Wang refused to leave. As the main wife, she would stand with the Marquis mansion through thick and thin. Jiang Yaoguang, however, cried incessantly, saying she would protect me and go south to find someone to save the Marquis mansion. Madame Wang had her knocked unconscious and sent to the He mansion. She and He Ming were already betrothed, and the He mansion would protect her. Linlang, just live a safe and peaceful life for the rest of your days. Do not come back. Madame Wang hugged me, holding back her tears, taking Xianxiao, a few guards, and packing gold and silver valuables. I fled the capital overnight. The journey was full of hardships and wanderings, and the wealth and glory of the capital were nothing but a passing cloud. The Northern Pacification Marquis was thrown into the imperial prison, and the female members of the family were sent to the Imperial Academy of Music. Fortunately, their lives were not yet in danger. I let out a long sigh of relief when I learned they were all alive, but I never expected that someone would chase us all the way. Xianxia was confused. The Marquis has never formed a clique for personal gain in the court. Why on earth does someone want to harm him? She did not know, but I was clear. The Northern Pacification Marquis had never sided with any force in the court. Though he was a military general, he had long since resigned his military post and lived a life of wealth for decades, never drawing attention to himself, such a wealthy and idle man. Yet he was deeply trusted by the bedridden emperor, and even summoned to the palace many times. Take me to Pei Huichuan, I called the tall man among the guards. His name was Yi Yin. He was usually silent and taciturn, like an invisible man, but his martial arts were the most outstanding, and I saw clearly that he was not from the Marquis mansion. He was a little surprised, then cupped his hands. I obey the young lady's orders. The pursuers behind us were like vicious dogs, clinging on relentlessly, and 3 more guards were killed along the way. After entering the territory of Huzhou, Yi Yin told me bad news. Pei Huichuan had gone to the front line with Prince Lu, and his return date was uncertain. I let out a cold laugh. He is a frail scholar. How can he mount a horse and fight the enemy? Yi Yin lowered his head and remained silent. 14. The gold and silver we had brought with us came in handy. I asked Yi Yin to rent a small courtyard. Young lady, what are you doing? Xianxia was confused. We have money with us, don't we? Making tofu. We were outsiders here, without a livelihood. We would surely arouse suspicion after a long time. A few days later, the neighbors all knew a new mill had opened here. Even as the pursuers ransacked every powerful family in Huzhou, they never thought we were hiding in a small workshop. Yi Yin and Xianxiao pretended to be a married couple, and I was their unmarried younger sister living with them. I blackened my face, fearing my looks would bring trouble. Mrs. Yi, is your younger sister betrothed? Neighbor Aunt Zhong cut a piece of tofu and chatted with Xianxiao with a smile. Xianxiao glanced at me, about to speak. Yi Yin cut in. She is already engaged. Aunt Zhong sighed and said what a pity. After returning to the house, I told Yi Yin, don't talk nonsense in the future. I'm counting on finding a good family here in Huzhou. But my young master, what does your young master have to do with me? I frowned. The Northern Pacification Marquis mansion is gone. Pei Sanlang has a reputation for leniency. He will surely agree to cancel the engagement. I disagree. A tall figure loomed over me. Xianxiao and Yi Yin quickly retreated out of the room. We had been apart for several months. Pei Huichuan was no longer as gentle and jade-like as he had been in the capital. Instead, his eyes were sharp, carrying a hint of murderous aura. This was the real him. Why stop pretending? I looked at him calmly, twirling a dagger in my hand. Pei Sanlang is famous for his noble character. Why not let me out of the marriage? Pei Huaichuan chuckled. In front of you. I need not pretend. Have you thought it through? I, Jiang Linlang, cannot act as a noble lady. I hate all those tedious etiquettes. I am by nature jealous, and I will not allow my future husband to take concubines. Pei Huaichuan did not flinch, grasping the dagger in my hand. I am a stubborn man, holding grudges for the smallest slights, and not at all a noble and upright gentleman. I will love only one person in this life, and never take a concubine. Blood began to seep from his hand. I thought to myself that this man was scheming. More cunning than a fox, he was betting that I would soften my heart. This damned thief, who had stolen my heart before I even knew it. I gave him the tiger tally that the Northern Pacification Marquis had entrusted to me. It was the Marquis's last trump card, and the root cause of the endless pursuers. He held me in his arms. If I betray you, may I be doomed for all eternity. Prince Lu was the emperor's fourth son. Pei Huaichuan had been his man from the very beginning, with the tiger tally. Prince Lu led 200,000 troops back to the capital, with He Ming acting as an internal accomplice in the city. In just a few months, they advanced triumphantly, sweeping all before them. The treacherous eunuchs and the Duke of Hugua turned against each other, and a letter colluding with the enemy was found in the Duke's mansion. Driven to desperation, the Duke of Hugua killed the treacherous eunuchs, and colluded with the imperial noble consort to force the emperor to abdicate, only to be beheaded by Prince Lu, who arrived just in time to rescue the emperor. Long ill and mentally exhausted, the emperor drafted an imperial edict to pass the throne before his death. Prince Lu would ascend the throne on an auspicious day. The dark clouds that had shrouded the capital for many days finally dispersed. 15. Prime Minister Pei was old, and submitted a memorial to resign and return to his hometown. The Northern Pacification Marquis was cleared of his unjust charges, released from the imperial prison, and restored to his official position. The Northern Pacification Marquis mansion was decorated with lanterns and streamers, filled with joy and celebration. I married a little later than Jiang Yaoguang. On Jiang Yaoguang's wedding day, I thought I would not cry, yet my eyes were still swollen like walnuts. It was all Jiang Yaoguang's fault. Her endless tears must have infected me. Now it was my turn, and I made up my mind that I would not cry for anything. Madame Wang held my hand. Linlang, you are a good child. The Marquis mansion owes its today to you. Mother really cannot bear to let you marry and leave. I held her hand back. Then I won't marry, and stay with you for a while longer. Madame Wang pretended to be cross. That won't do. Your husband will surely blame me for it. Lian Xiao also smiled. Young master has deep feelings for you, miss. The wedding date has been changed several times. He can't wait to take you home as soon as possible. I would not believe it. Lian Xiao spoke earnestly. The way he looks at you is the same as the way you look at gold. Gold was my dearest treasure. A sweet warmth spread through my heart. After the wedding vows, Pei Huaichuan led me into the bridal chamber. Never did I think that after all the twists and turns, I would still marry into the Pei mansion. A little boy in red robes was rolling about on the bed. It was none other than the seventh young master Pei. He bowed to Pei Huaichuan and me, and recited in a serious, measured tone, "May elder brother and sister-in-law live in perfect happiness and be blessed with an early child." Seeing his clumsy, naive look, I could not help but laugh out loud. Pei Huaichuan also smiled, pressed a big red envelope into his hand, and had someone carry him out. I found the phoenix crown and red bridal robe on my head too heavy, and asked Pei Huaichuan to help me take them off. I stretched out my foot, and Pei Huaichuan bent down to take off my shoes, not the least bit impatient. Pei Huaichuan, you have already married a fake noble lady like me. It's too late to regret it now. Pei Huaichuan wrapped his arms around my waist, stole my breath, and lifted his head to kiss me. A fake noble lady and a hypocrite, we were born for each other. The wine's power deepened, stirring the stirrings of spring. The mandarin duck embroidered quilt billowed in crimson waves.